Good morning, good evening, good day, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the She Summit Superhero Engine that I'm honored to kick off together with a dear friend and colleague, Elisabetta Ottolo, live from Spain, Italy, sorry. We go in all directions. No, she's in
Yes.
Italy, I myself in Belgium. Welcome, Elisabetta. How are you?
Hi, dearest Isa. I'm fantastically, good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here today in this very important event.
Thank you so much. Today we're going to talk about empowering women through AI in the metaverse. And I know that you have a lot going on at MIAT, at the Multiverse Institutes of Arts and Entertainment. And technology, and also have a terrific course going on in AI. So I said, let's get into it.
Yes.
I would like to know from your side how you see it that women can play a pivotal role in shaping the ethical framework of AI within the metaverse.
Well, this is a great question. Well, I have to say, I think that women can play a pivotal role in shaping AI ethics in the metaverse. Doing like a few things. Maybe first of all, participating in the design and development and governance also of AI technologies to ensure that you can reach diverse perspectives. That all diverse perspectives are represented, but also like advocating AI that is inclusive and accessible, which is massively important and empowering for all users, regardless, of gender and backgrounds. Bringing what we really care about, which is the human-centered approach that consider actually social and emotional context, not just the technical performance of these technologies, and mentoring, also encouraging other women, particularly like the youngest. I have to say, and also this event is very important, I think, for this objective. And but also filling leadership roles like in corporations and organizations, so they can really directly influence policy sectors. But I would like to also add something which is very important for me. I would say that is we have to work all together to shape an ethical framework, women and men. This is not just like a women matter, because AI is a really political matter. I mean, there is a geographical imbalance regarding the use of the provenance of data, for instance, behind AI, which is reflected in biases. And but AI is really also a governmental issue, and we need common rules and regulations and ethical guidelines. I have to say I'm very happy that last November, as you know, there was the AI Safety Summit organized sort of by the UK government, where UK, US, EU, and China, come together to find some rules, and also countries commit to safe development, to put people together at the center. So on a political level, I say that networking and also education is very important for these themes. So, and just maybe to close, inclusive, thoughtful leadership, I have to say, that centers diverse experiences will be key to establishing a trustworthy AI guardrails, unlocking benefits for all in the new immersive and emerging technologies.
You just mentioned exactly education, which is a very important role. In what ways do you think that immersive education in the metaverse could help bridge gender gaps? Because indeed, it is something for all human beings. It's not only about females. And what challenges may arise in this journey?
Let me start from the challenges, if you don't mind. See, I think that I can see at least two main challenges. First of all, is the level of the low level of awareness, around all these technologies and actually contents and experience that you can create with these technologies. Because for me, And for us, it's like content like drives technologies and not the way around. And also adversity regarding, this theme. The diffidence, which is like the very big second challenge, because which is actually a diffidence generated by, the technology, as it can really create a fear. First of all, we can see, because we also not only teach, but also we work with immersive experiences with brands, every day, because it is something that is really still new and unknown, and thus education is essential to understand really like how these technologies can really like empower our life, and what we can do with this technology, what is the potential, and the bias and inequalities, because there is really like the need to of an homogeneous and global policy and regulation. So if we talk about AI, for instance, not only immersive technologies, of course, and like XR technologies, um, it's still a little bit of like a far west and a cowboy moment. So
Yeah.
education is really crucial, and immersivity can, as we know in the sector, can really amplify the capacity to empathize and also create a global change. So there are like many initiatives. I just want to recall one which is very important, that has been created by a very important university in Italy, in Pisa, the Sant'Anna University. They actually created a VR experiences that allows you to put yourself in the girl's shoes, and understand what it feels like to be a prey, which is very, very important and very, very incredible experience.
That sounds really amazing.
Yeah.
As we are a bit short on time, I would like to hear from you what the role is that Miat is taking on in this direction to make sure that this going in the direction we would love, to the human-centric direction, of course.
Oh, well, as Mieta, I'm also an international speaker, as but also as a member, I would say, of the board of your immersive, and also Fondazione Carpolo. I really like take an active role in the international debate regarding all the ethical adoption of immersive and emerging technologies. I would say that the soul of technology, Mieta, is defined by commitment of a human-centric approach, and an harmonious integration of creativity, technology, and ethics. You mentioned before, we have like in our institute many courses, that for instance our AI generative effort writing or immersive storytelling is actually human centered, and this is what we really care about. We have already trained over 20 people from all over the world, but our teams consisting of like global award winners, but in this mechanism combining like education, production, research, and like also like spreading out the ethical perspective of all immersive and emerging technologies, women and men are equally important and valued. So collaboration and inclusivity is massively important. I would say that maybe the soul of technology, the content and these immersive experiences in our business lies in its ability to really empower individuals.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice one to close this off with. I'm really happy to have had this discussion with you, and I'm sure we could go on
Thank
for
you.
hours and hours. But
Yes, we
I
could.
think, yeah, I think it's also an interesting one, because our next panel is all about storytelling, and I think this is an
Beautiful.
excellent bridge, going from the storytelling courses with AI, amongst others, that you deliver, that we go to all the narratives that matters, where people, it's all about people and inclusivity. So that's a really nice one. Thank you so much, and
Thank
I hope to
you.
see you out very soon.
Thank you, Isa. Thank you, everyone, and good luck for the next. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Hello, lovely ladies.
Hey,
What a powerhouse. Oh my God. Look at that. This is amazing. And on top of that, an amazing topic. I'm afraid that we'll have a hard time getting everything pushed in this only 50 minutes. Okay, so I suggest we start with a short introduction of each and every one of you. Please keep it short. The shorter you keep it, the longer we can talk, which we all love. So I'm just going to follow the lines here on the screen. Jamie, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having
Hi.
me. My name is Jamie Petrie. I am the owner of Pink October Co., and we make digital stationery and apparel.
Nice. Great, and welcome.
Thank you.
Lizzie, so great to see you again. It's always lovely to see each other. We always meet in here. We should do this more often.
Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year to you, Isabel.
Thank you.
I'm a publicist and I deal with entertainment and tech.
Amazing. And she's doing a great job with it as well. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it well. Maria Palais, or please correct me if I'm wrong.
Hi, yeah, I'm also a tech and entertainment publicist. Focus on.
We lost
just
her.
had small technical issues. She'll get back. Let's get first to Mariam, and then we will pick her up again when she's okay. Welcome, Mariam.
Thank you so much. I work at the intersection of art, science, technology, and global co-authorship.
Wow, fascinating. Getting into that later on. Dr. Tammy Francis, welcome. Nice to have you again.
There we go. It's good to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I am Dr. Tammy. I'm an educator. So I've been an educator for over 24 years, a traditional educator. And of course, I educate in the Web3 space. And I'm really into talent development, learning and development, and looking at how that can help you with your transition and growth, upskill, reskill, and retool.
Amazing.
Sounds fascinating. You're all doing so fascinating things. I could talk for hours. It's going to be a challenge for me. Okay, welcome. Hannah, please introduce yourself. Hanan, sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I get it all the time. I'm Hanan Merabi. Hello, everyone. Morning, afternoon, evening to you all. I am a nurse by trade, but also the founder of Earth Angels nonprofit organization, where we help moms and babies in impoverished areas. Currently building a fish farm in Ghana, West Africa, to feed many.
Wow.
Nice to meet you all.
That's wow. Respect. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shannon, welcome.
Hi, I'm Shannon Peel, and I help brands get brand appeal by defining who they are and telling brand stories to the marketplace to connect.
Peel gets appeal.
That's a good one. Interesting. So I think that Mariah is still off, or maybe she's already back. I'm not sure. We will bring her in as soon as she's ready. But I would say let's get this party started. We have several questions. I won't let you reply to each question, every one of you. Just picking it up. So if you really feel like this is a question I would love to say something about, just raise your hand or make some noise. But I would love to do it a bit more spiced up than yesterday, so everybody can say something about whatever she likes. And we have Mariah back. Hi, Mariah.
Hi.
Great to have you. Please just introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah. So I'm also a tech and entertainment publicist. We focus on the founders of the companies and doing personal branding for them to ultimately amplify their voice within their brand.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And happy that you figured out the tech so that we can all dive in. I was just saying that there are tons of questions, but if you feel like this is a question for me, just make some noise, make a sign, and then because I won't reply everybody to the same question. Just want to spice it up a little. So let's get this party started, as I said, and let's start with the first question. How has storytelling evolved according to you with the advent of emerging technologies in your particular field?
All right.
It's a big
I'll
one.
go. Oh.
Okay,
No,
Lucy.
go ahead, Peel. Go ahead, Peel.
Well, I'm probably the oldest one in here, so I started telling brand stories when email was brand new. So I have seen the gamut of evolving technologies and have been a part of it. The main thing that has happened is storytelling has shrunk. So our brand stories are becoming sound bites spread out throughout our digital footprints, and we're losing understanding and comprehension and connection with our audiences in the marketing advertising world. Commercials used to be longer. Now it's like writing a book report and only reading the first chapter and the last chapter and trying to get an A. That's what our brand storytelling is today in today's world, because there's so many options, so many channels, and so much content.
It's a battle for attention.
Yeah, it is a battle for attention in the advertising marketing world. Even if you're going to tell a longer story, it has to have less details. It has to bring the audience in more by tapping into their experiences.
Mm-hmm. Lucy, what is your take on that?
Well, we have to talk about what nonlinear storytelling is and how that fits into the VR cinema perspective, and even telling a story in a 3D immersive environment. Very much like what we saw in the transition from theater to cinema 100 plus years ago, we had to retrain the audience to perceive a story in a different way. We weren't just filming a proscenium stage and basically filming whatever was on stage as a play. The editors came in, and all of a sudden the audience had to perceive what it meant when there was a close-up on the protagonist or a hand going towards a doorknob and who's on the other side of that door. We're seeing that evolution again in VR as we retrain the audience to perceive a story in an immersive environment.
Mm-hmm.
A beep bop.
Totally. Totally. It's also a totally different perspective. From 180, you go to 360.
Facts.
Hanan, please.
Yes, I was going to add to what Shannon said, because it's gotten so hard. It's gotten so hard just with trying to make a presence online. I think I thought it would be easy. I have some short films about all the projects that I'm doing with the nonprofit that I run, some films that cost me a lot of money to make. And I thought, I'll share them and it'll be pretty easy to get a visceral reaction from the audience and pull them in. And surely everybody will watch it and it'll go viral. And no, actually that wasn't the case. And that's happened several times to me. So yes, the culture has changed, and the storytelling needs to be, so different and so, I guess, creative and quick, because what we thought or what you think may work or may grab the attention of the audience is not always the case. That's for sure.
Definitely. Could you share an example where a narrative significantly impacted a brand or technology success? Any ideas on that one? Please, Jamie. Yeah.
I had an example that's actually very recent. The Intimates line, Ari, just posted a photo with the caption of "Sexy energy is not a body type," and then showcased a bunch of women with the same body type. And that post has gone
Twice.
viral. Yes, it went viral for all of the wrong reasons. And the post itself only has 1,100 negative comments, but it has spiraled into something so much bigger. People are posting comments under other pictures on their Instagram account, blowing up their DMs. And I think that that is an example of where a narrative has significantly derailed a brand. I think that the message was nice, like there was good intent behind the message, but then the follow through was just not in the graphics. And then in essentials, like in their size chart for their stores. It's one thing to say something, that sounds nice and uplifting, and then it's another to follow through on that. And I think our storytelling needs to be genuine, and it needs to be honest. We could all say all the nice things, all the right things, but unless there's a follow through, your audience is going to see straight through you, especially in the season of cancel culture.
Yeah. You say, in fact, walk the talk, be authentic. Yeah, totally with you. Mariah.
Yeah, I was actually I was just gonna say that one too, because that was very recent. But I also have one where it was a bootstrap water technology company that I was working with, and they had very little funding, tale as old as time. They wanted to go with the narrative of, like, we're a family owned business. We are honest, blase, blase, blase. Well, what was nice was that we were able to connect that narrative in our communications with the public. Um, and we got a lot of family run plumbers that were really on board with that, because most plumbing businesses are family owned and run, or at some point were. And so we really capitalized on that. And so installations of this tech started getting more popular. A large insurance company saw it, um, promoted them, and they ended up getting bought out by one of the largest plumbing companies in the US. So it's like, it can be simple, your narrative. It needs to be like you said, it needs to be really authentic. And
Yeah.
sometimes you need to be super, super innovative in the way that you say it, but sometimes you can just bear the basics, and it really will shine through if it's true and authentic.
It's true. Anybody, anything to add to that?
I it's not answering the question, so it's not an example, but I
Don't
do want
worry,
to.
don't worry.
I think that there's a lot now with image and words. Before, when you told your story, it was mainly in words. I was back in the email era, right? And you wrote your book and your memoir, and you did that, and it was mainly words. And so words, you could do a lot with it, and it was difficult to decipher tone and some of the mood and some of those things with the words. But now with images, kind of like Jamie was saying, you got to be careful because it can contradict what you're saying or clarify what you're saying, and that can derail things or make it more impactful positively. And so I think that is the shift that we're seeing, is now there's images attached to all that we tell, and all the things that we say about ourselves.
I would like to take that even a bit further, because it's not just about images. With immersive technology, you're really immersed, you're living it.
That's right.
So it's in fact beyond images even,
Correct.
which makes that you feel it instantly if something is not authentic. You could
Right.
even put like images, like
Period.
fake images, whatever. But now you're living it.
Right.
And I think that's a major shift that will do a real okay, let's get rid of all the fake ones and just keep the real ones.
It's
In
even
the end.
beyond language. There's a
Yeah.
there's a breaking of the language barrier that's happening, and ultimately, when we do arrive at Web3 and whatever the next iteration of the web will be, it will be basically symbolic language, which is fantastic because we will bring the world together for real, because language barriers will not be a thing anymore.
Well, the other thing is that we're going to have the ones that can really figure out how to create a choose your own adventure story that is authentic and isn't just, change to page 2, turn to page 4. I mean, when I choose your own adventure stories when I was a kid was you turn the page. But now it's, do you go through door 1 or do you go through door 2? And you walk through that door and it changes the story. Now, Netflix has tried to do this. It is very labor intensive, very expensive, but we're going towards that. I mean, I that's in my publishing world, that's what I try to do is these choose your own adventure stories, because that's where we're going.
I think
saw
we've
Mariam.
seen, sorry, not to interrupt you, Isabel. I was
Sure.
going to just piggyback off Shannon. I feel like we've seen that in video games recently with the new release of Hogwarts Legacy. It's really an open world. You can do whatever you want. And there are even consequences for picking on fellow students. And there is curses that you can throw at people, such as Avada Kedavra, which is a killing curse. But if you kill a main character, you have to start your game all the way over. Like, it's just, that's where it ends. And I think bringing that aspect, like that whole open world, into something that like is more than just like on a screen with a controller where you can actually like feel like you're a part of it, I think that is going to be just
interactivity, no doubt.
Yes. Yeah.
So you become part of the narrative itself. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mariam, please, you wanted to say something?
Sure. I think it's maybe just a recap of humans connect through stories, and we have been engaged in an oral tradition since time immemorial. What's happening now with technology is the creative economy piercing through the attention economy. And here we have a multi-dimensional, multimodal opportunity. And all of the talk around authenticity, I think for me, requires a deeper dive into what it means to be authentic and understanding ourselves across generations, digital natives. We have a lot of fake bots, fake avatars. As president of the Montreal chapter of the VRAR Association, I see the potential for authenticity itself to be upended. I work with organizations on digital innovation where the technology supersedes the larger narrative. And I think from a marketing perspective, part of my work as founder and CEO of Hollow Art, bringing science, art, and tech together, is exploring the notion of storytelling as a medium to resonate frequencies in marketing. When a story is told, heartbeats and brainwaves synchronize. So the power here for me and the opportunity is to have different voices who don't typically have access to the pen, to chapters in certain books, to tell stories in a way that resonates. And the opportunity, I think, is global co-authorship. That's why we have a child on our board. I think it's really important to listen to children. We have elders, Indigenous voices. And I think part of this requires a look at what it means to tell a global story. With that global story, empathy, compassion, the ability to tolerate narratives that are different than ours. I think that's the opportunity for storytelling. And I think the last piece I'll say is we're moving beyond the tired archetypes of Jungian, the hero's story, the lone hero. I think what we're moving into is reimagining stories as a way to connect.
That's a really nice one. And I think that brings us as well to our next question. I think you were already seeing it up front, because indeed, how do you harness the power of storytelling to connect with your audience on a deeper level? Exactly what you were talking about, Mariam. How do you see that, ladies?
Well, this is at the core of what I do, because when I start with a brand, it is the first thing I do is define their real core values. And that isn't the nice to haves. That isn't the what you want someone to think that you are. This is really looking at your behavior, the choices that you've made, your stories in the past, and what they say about you as an expert or even as a leader of a company. I mean, the more people you have on do this, the more layers there are, but you can really find those common threads in your organization that you can then utilize in your language and in your narrative to attract the right people as employees, to attract the right people as customers, because they're resonating with those keywords, those key things that are about you. But then it's about telling the right stories and staying on target, not trying to run after that viral video and do that TikTok dance because everybody's going to watch it. It's really about making sure that you're understanding and then taking it to the next level, which is, I call it experiential storytelling. When you understand your audience so well that you start telling stories in the second person by utilizing the pronoun you, and you are able to understand which details matter in order to put your audience in the experience of the problem that they have, and then guide them through their customer journey, where you're then presenting them with solutions that they get to choose and results, and showing them what that result is going to be like. Once we're in the VR world, that is so much more visceral, because they can actually pick something and see what the consequences
really shoot themselves.
Yeah. But in my advertising marketing world, it still is quite one-sided. Like if you use this is what's going to happen. It's still a promise that brands give. But understanding who your audience is on the core values and what it is that they experience in their day-to-day, and then telling them that story and putting your information in there as solutions. That's what I do on a daily basis. So you have to understand them on a deep level. You have to do the research. Storytelling does not start with once upon a time. It starts by asking questions.
And I think a little more than that. I know when we think about storytelling, we always think about the side of telling the story. But part of storytelling, I think that Miriam hit on it, was this oral tradition has been forever. And part of the things I think that we're forgetting now with technology is that part of the storytelling is listening, right? Is that side of it. And I think as a founder, I think I pay more attention to what the people and I am targeting, my targeted audience, those people that I'm serving, that what they're saying, right? Not only and what they need, and listening to their stories, but then sometimes I have to listen to my own stories. Like, what is that I am putting out there, and what does that look like, and look at it holistically. And so I think that that's part of the power, is in the listening. No matter if you're in the virtual world or whatever world, is paying attention to all those things, and really think about, and I always think about literacy. It's reading, writing, speaking, and listening, right? So I think it's also those elements that are around you and taking all of those things in.
I'd like to add to that, if I may, in bringing to the fore the medium through which we tell stories. And I think part of that is storytelling is an opportunity for us to build, establish, and grow, cultivate trust. With that trust also comes this discernment and the ability to move forth with wisdom, understanding that language changes. And so for younger generations, we have emoji language that some parents who see their children text don't understand. An eggplant for a 45-year-old will mean a different thing than for a 5-year-old, than for an 80-year-old, than for a 95-year-old. I have friends who are 95. Some of them stay, abreast of cultural icons. And I think where we're going with this is looking at how language manifests itself in our day-to-day. mirroring that, I loved what you said, Dr. Tammy, about listening and active listening. And the last piece around the medium is when we look at the neurocircuitry and the social psychology of emotional contagion, we think about the digital spectra that younger generations, consumers, marketing profiles have access to. What we notice is that their brains are changing. So when you have YouTube Shorts or TikTok showing two different things, one at a very slow pace, one at a very fast pace, what that does for the ability of the mind, body, and heart to listen, to be able to absorb and to discern which pieces of data and information will be weighted, just like an algorithm, just like AI, just like an LLM. It's that piece that I think we can cultivate through education and also elevate the opportunity for women to have a voice at the table so that those data sets aren't simulated data sets that were pulled from a digital archive, a compendium of human knowledge that has sieved and sorted based on a certain filter and perception. So thank you.
Yes, please, Jamie.
I just wanted to add to everything that everyone's been saying. As I think I'm probably the youngest person on the panel, my brand was born on social media. And from that perspective, we really needed to find our why. Why do we exist? Why should people care? What are we trying to solve, etc.? And so we needed to do our storytelling in 30-second tidbits that were also engaging, that drove home to our target audience, hit the right people, because if it was being seen by people who were not within our target audience, it would flop. So our storytelling is like really evolving into, how can I take this huge story, this big why, and break it down into 30-second segments? And I feel like it does a lot of good, because if you have a long story, that's a lot of content that you get to share and spread out across multiple days, months, etc. But there's also been a huge drive from Instagram to listen to your audience. So they have added polls. You can do questionnaires. It's making like your story very interactive with your audience, and they're able to tell you what they do and do not like. At the same time, people are very vocal in the comments section. They will, if they don't like something, just with Ari, they'll tell you. You'll know. And I think that's a huge blessing, because you're not just putting something out there and hoping it sticks. You get the immediate feedback of like, oh, okay, that was the wrong direction. Let's redirect. Let's correct. And I think storytellers on social media, especially, we're becoming like almost data analysts, because we have to look at our engagement. We have to see, okay, when will I get the most engagement? When will people see this the most? And constantly fighting the ever-changing algorithm. And so it's really a beautiful time where data, science, and storytelling are all like interchanging with each other. And I think it's a wonderful way to tell new stories.
Is our audience still our audience? That's something that, because we're talking now about, we talked about language, about audience, about all different kinds of things, but what we didn't talk about yet is culture. What role does cultural context play in crafting narratives? Because I can imagine a story that you tell in one country doesn't necessarily work within another country or other continent, or based on language, based on audience, based on so many things. So what role does it play within your industry?
Well, I'm in North America, so we have a multitude of cultures, and I'm in Canada, so we are a mosaic of cultures. And culture is changing rapidly here. You know, what we believed and was acceptable as a teenager in my life is so not acceptable in today's PC world. And brands are getting caught. take Pepsi, for example, with their jump in commercial where the Jenner girl led the Black Lives Matter protest, and Pepsi could solve the protest, the conflict. That was so tone deaf to what was actually going on, because they didn't understand the people that were participating in that protest. But that has nothing to do with one ethnicity over another, because a lot of different ethnicities came together to voice how important one subgroup was in our culture. And Dove has done it with women. Gillette has done it with men. If you don't do it right, if you don't understand that audience, they're going to eviscerate you. Now, the thing is, Pepsi back in the 70s was at the forefront of the Black Lives Matter type of marketing and advertising, because they showed groups of urban Black young people enjoying Pepsi as a commercial in the 70s, which was different. And then they go and blow it in 2020, whatever. So that is a loss of understanding how people are going to react to a message, because you don't understand the culture. You don't understand what's important to them. You don't understand their value system. And you try to just jump in to a movement or an ideal.
Well, there's a shift happening, and the shift is actually against cancel culture and PC. It looks like things are really moving in the direction where people just do whatever the hell and suffer no consequences. With rises of figures like Trump and other more boisterous political figures popping up all over the world, there seems to be a trashing of cancel culture. And people are blatantly like, fuck this and fuck that, and they don't care, and they're just plowing through. And I wouldn't be surprised, or it looks like the temperature of the room is going in that direction. So it's just interesting to see how all this time we've had this cancel culture and kind of being, very careful about cultural appropriation and such, that now it looks like it's just going to be like blah. And if Trump really comes back into the White House, then brace yourselves, because it's going to be completely unapologetic, and you will see the pendulum swing in the other direction, where people haphazardly will just say what's on their mind and not even just move on and not even think about, any kind of addendum to a statement.
Which people can do, but brands cannot.
So I wanted to piggyback on what Jamie first was saying last about, I think, and this might be the nurse in me, and I'm so not on the IT lane, so maybe I'm out of my lane today. I'm learning from all of you. But I think relatable is what human beings want to feel, right? Is that they relate to the message. I think as a millennial, I think I can speak for that generation, but I think most human beings just want to feel like they relate with that message. And then as far as cultural context, I can't give so much of a techie example, but my example in my field is that with the farm that I'm building, I'm 4 years in, and my first goal was to just feed people, as many as possible, 1,000 people a year if possible. And that was my bandwagon for a while, until I started listening to the people in the village. Mm-hmm. And until I actually had a local do some research for me. And she came back and said, actually, people want the food, sure, but what they really want is, there's all these grandmothers that have all these children, and the children are not in school because they can't afford it. So they're helping the grandmas by working. And so it's just a mess in the community, because there's all of these needs, levels of needs. And so because I sort of, put my roots into research and actually doing what the community told me versus what I thought they should have, we now have, the grandmas off the streets with their kids going to school instead of working, with the supplies they need, and have, an abundance of fish, and know how to sustainably fish farm. So now we have layers of all these benefits, generational benefits for the community, versus here's some fish. So that's my example, and just had me thinking when Jamie was talking about her last point.
Yes.
Brilliant. Mariah, what is your take on that?
So yeah, I think I like what Shannon said. As far as brands do need to be aware of these things. I know that when we've done localization and stuff with different games that I've worked on and stuff, what we're advertising, the message that we're putting out there in the Middle East is vastly different than in the US. And you have to you have to be very, very sensitive for different countries. And even I'm living in Thailand right now, and stuff that is culturally here is not other places. And so like my friends that have businesses here that are from America are making sure that it is integrated with the culture that they're accustomed to and will make them feel comfortable being in their own country, right? So just, yeah, I think that Shannon said that really well.
Totally. As I see that we're already approaching near the end, I know it's going fast. Could talk for days with all of you. What advice would you give to someone looking to leverage storytelling to drive innovation? I would love to hear from each and every one of you.
If you're okay with it, Isabel, I'd like to address the cultural piece, and I'll skip this
Yeah,
one.
sure. Please.
Only because it's a huge part of the impetus and telos of what we're doing. I think there's a couple of things to note here. One is that we have cultures, we have subcultures, we have countercultures. We have emerging markets, we have cross-section demographics, and we're losing what the essence of culture initially meant in terms of art, philosophy, and the ability to understand our emotional spectra. Part of this is based on educational funding and a dumbing down of society, which leads itself to populism and being able to appeal to people's base emotional responses. We see this in the pendulum swing of polarized politics around the world, and then this clash of cultures blending and merging into one through one technologies, and two, understanding the underlying infrastructure of our technological landscape is really important. As digital stewards, we need to take a deep dive into how Facebook was initially created to rate women's attractiveness on college campuses. YouTube originally, and you can ask ChatGPT, there will be a rewriting of the narrative, which is also fascinating, along with scribes from millennia past. What we have is a subversive narrative that comes through counterculture in different music. If we look at blues, if we look at grass, if we look at poetry in the Song Dynasty, poets would hide in in the palaces and say verse to be subversive in what they were saying. So I just wanted to add this nuance of, this is the GatherVerse She Summit. What are we all doing here? And what personality profile do we all fit? What is the narrative we're trying to share within the landscape of tech bro culture? Thank you.
Thank you.
I love that tech bro culture.
And so I think when I think about what advice I would give, and I think Miriam set this up perfectly, so thank you for that segue, is that you tell your story. There's a lot of people who, with the emerging technologies, are very apprehensive about learning, about engaging in the different ways we can communicate using technology. And I think it's always better for you to tell your story because nobody can tell it like you can tell it. And also listen. I think Jamie mentioned it. You know, when you listen to your audience, you know what to tell. I am one that doesn't. I don't like to share a lot of my personal, and so I had to find my way. So the third thing I would say is to find how it works for you. Find the way it works for you. I'm not one to share a lot of my personal on my timeline. unless it relates to my business or something that I'm doing in the community, my volunteerism or something. But I found my stories. The stories, because they disappear, they're a short time. People have to be intentional about going to people who really want to know. They'll click on it as opposed to people who's just scrolling up and down. And so I think that's, you just have to find that space where you can tell your story and take charge of it. Tell your story and be authentic and do it with integrity.
Nice one.
When it comes to innovation,
Fine.
it's figure out what problem you're having. When I looked at storytelling, I did a bunch of podcasts, and I looked at my story, and it was like spread out all over the digital footprint, and people were missing what it was that I did. They were missing the point of why they would want to call me. So I looked at other technologies, and it wasn't just about going with one technology. I figured out how to piece together different technologies to create a multimedia interactive digital book in order to guide people through the story. So, with VR coming in, and with these different ways that we tell stories, whether it's video or audio or in print, or by doing interactive things like surveys, polls, and quizzes, figure out a way that you can bring all of that together to communicate with your ideal audience in the way that they like to be communicated with, because we all have our own preferences.
There's not one size fits all, indeed. Hanan.
I would say, as Dr. Tammy said, it's your story. So first figure out what that story is that you want to share, and then be true and authentic, of course, because the more authentic, the more relation you'll have with the audience. But then with authenticity becomes vulnerability, right? And I too don't like to share my personal stuff, Dr. Tammy, but I find that when I do is when I get the most response from the audience. So it's this catch-22. Where it's a delicate dance. And, for those of us who don't like to give too much of the personal stuff, but that's what people want. So I would say take your time, figure out what that niche is, what the story is, because if you're like me, the story was going this way. Next thing you know, there's 10 stories. So, just take your time, figure out what the niche is, what the story is, and play with it. Don't be so serious. It's okay to fail, to fall and get up again, whatever that message is, the story is. I would say take your time with it and really figure out what it is you want to share.
I just want to piggyback off of that too. To find your why. Your why is really important, and to find your story and your voice. And I'm the type of person that it cannot just all live in my head, because pieces will fall out. I will forget. So if you have to write your story down, write it down and really dig deep, because I guarantee you other people out in your community will resonate with your story. They will have had the same experience or something similar. And that's what connects us as a community. And don't let the nagging voice in your head deter you from following your dreams. Walt Disney had a dream about a dancing mouse on a steamboat once upon a time. And now look at what Walt Disney has created. He's changed the world. J.K. Rowling wrote the first Harry Potter book on napkins at the coffee shop she worked at. And Apple was started in a garage. And now
everything was started in a garage.
Yeah. Almost everyone knows what an iPhone is. We know what all these products are. And if those people had let the nagging voice in their head win, everything would be different. Everything you know about today would be completely different. So you have the power to change the world with your ideas. And that might sound like something silly, something that you put on a little inspiration card and keep by your desk, but it is true. And we have walking, living proof of that all around us. So follow your dreams.
That's a nice one. Mariah.
Yeah, just to put it I work with a lot of entrepreneurs that are maybe afraid to tell their story within their brand, and that's what my whole business is based upon. Like, this is what we do, this is why we do it, and in the simplest terms, your story, like, storytelling within your brand is just your experience, and your experience is unique, and your experience is going to help you navigate the way that you innovate within that, and the way you tell that story is going to affect where you're positioned in the market. And it's not as scary as it sounds, but it is worth it. And when you and it can elevate your brand, or it can be your downfall. We've seen really great stories that didn't come to fruition, and they're now, maybe in jail or bankrupt. So you have all this power in your hands, where you can tell stories authentically. And yeah, you can get the message of, depending on what it is, like hope. If you had a rough start, and then you've brought your technology, your business, some to heights that you never could have imagined. You can inspire this way, and really all it comes down to is telling your experience.
Lovely. Lissy, up to you to close it down.
Honestly, just make it fun and interesting. If you keep things interesting and have a layer of fun, it will keep people engaged. And then maybe you could dig deeper, but you have to hook people in with something that's going to interest them and keep them entertained. And then you have the luxury to penetrate deeper.
You're such inspiring women. Seriously, this is an awesome powerhouse. I don't know how the others will do it after us, because you already set the bar quite high, ladies. So I would love to thank each and every one of you. We lost Mariam due to technical issues, but also to her and each of you. Thank you so much for so much inspiration, a lovely discussion. And I'm sure we'll meet again very soon. So keep inspiring, and keep it up for all those out there. You're real trailblazers. So
Thanks, Isabel. Nice
thank
meeting you all,
you.
ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Our feelings do matter, and what we think about each other weighs a lot on our collective future. But what is an other? Hi, and welcome to my presentation. Consistently across time and societies, we've seen a other. This can be a differing tribe, or the sports enthusiast who's not quite sporty enough for the jock clique or nerdy enough for the other ones, seen but really undefined. Women were an other, and now in many nations, they're seen as just another member of society. How dare you treat them as less than or objects? Why on earth would you treat them as if not human? A new other has arrived. One often not seen as human. A group I call the technological other. Recently, I conducted a survey, one that asked participants to share their opinions on cyborgs and robots, two categories that have both fascinated and terrified humans. In the survey, I had questions like, should a human be able to own a cyborg or robot? And would you own a cyborg or robot? Surprisingly, 16% said humans should not be able to own a robot, and 41% said that they would not own a robot. How did we get these responses when robot ownership is near ubiquitous, if not normalized? I mean, if you're watching this presentation, you're probably watching this on a robot, one that you may own. asked participants to define cyborg and robot, as well as human, before beginning the survey. Even with terms like human-robot parts for cyborg and machine-human made for robots, our participants are holding definitions that stray from our academic ones. In her National Geographic presentation, Amber Case referred to cyborgs as an organism for which exogenous components have been added for the purpose of adapting to a new ambient environment. Yes. To the field of cyborg anthropology, as she famously says, we are already cyborgs. But I don't think that's entirely true. Remember women? The definition of a person and a human has changed over time. So how are we defining it now? I raise the question to you. What percent robot and mechanical parts would make you, no longer human? Something to think about before getting your cybernetic arm and signing away your human rights and liberties. This may sound extreme, but my results seem to show that the categories of robot and cyborg are actually spectromic. Human to cyborg, human to robots, and robot to cyborg. This is a technological other, a term I define as cyborgs, robots, and those who are non-human via technology. It's a term I'm still developing. This may sound extreme, but the ways we feel affect policy. Our sentiments towards cyborgs and robots, the technological other, they will affect the laws and policies that get passed. They will affect the protests that might arise in reaction to those laws and policies. If you are no longer considered human, the optics of your group matter. I mean, take 2 looks at respectability politics. In Feminine Fascism by Julie Gottlieb, thank you Abigail Thorne, I saw how in history, feminism, fighting for rights often studied in cyborg anthropology, turned into fascism when reacting to an other. Sentiments hold weight. A demographic question I asked was, are you a human? Of the 111 participants, 15% did not answer yes. The technological other is a real group, one that exists and we cannot ignore. I hope to continue this work to understand how we feel about this other and the implications of those feelings. My name is Eli Bohan. Thank you for your attention. Feel free to reach out, and may our gather be well.
We envision a future where women in tech are equal partners in creating and shaping industry and are respected and valued for their contributions with equal opportunity to succeed. We believe that by supporting and empowering women in tech, we foster a more inclusive and innovative-minded industry. Our aim is to create spaces where women can share their stories, learn from each other, and share their insights, their stories, and their visions. We are fostering a richer, more vibrant future for all. Hi, I'm Norma de Saint-Picman, intermedia NFT Gesamtkunstwerk artist, painter and sculptor, founder of Noravision Gallery and Noravision Decentralized Art Investments. And here I would like to share my insights and my contribution to the GatherVerse She Summit, as we are empowering women regardless to race, color, background, social position, we have all access to new technologies and possibilities to share our personal stories, our personal insights, combined with global international wisdom, which are enabling us to communicate and to connect with each other through different means as it was possible before. The Norwegian Solar Metaverse, the Song of Song project, is actually using Gaussian's plot of Cistercian Church, Stanivica on Kirkuk. The project is linking Gaussian's plot of two polyester sculptures of mine, the sarcophage and the bride, for the first and for the last scene of the project. Sarcophage, female lying on the grass, in the green, in the valley, in the green fairy scene. After we are entering Gaussian's plot of Cistercian Church, and there we have 3 videos playing on the 3 cubes in the central area of the church. And then the last scene is also the sculpture The Bride and the Green Valley, and this is the final scene. The actual moving to the church is possible via a special controller, because all the project is built on Unity platform. So the controller originally has a form which is reminding us of the bomb or a projector, and I have let this form be invisible, even though for a moment I let it transparent, as this is reminding us events in Gaza, and also this recitation in Hebrew language are reminding us all this heavy history of wars and Nazism. So we are moving via this projectile, via this controller, and on the controller the scan of my body is linked, and this scan also has an amputated arm, which is later replaced by angelic wings from the Unity assets. In this case, the physical existence and the physical constraints are transcended via love, and via spiritual. So all the message is amplifying the quality of love, the quality of transcendence of physical constraints. As well, we can feel it via Gregorian chants. Basically, all the project is linking this heritage, is linking ancient and eternal values of love, of transcendence, of spiritual, and latest technology, like Unity platform, body scans. Also, in the center of the church, there is a 3D drawing executed in this gravity sketch in the MetaQuest 2. The project is part of a larger project, Norwegian Solar Metaverse, which is a sustainable project of painting of decommissioned solar panels with oil paintings. This project was lastly shown at the Bogensberg Castle as Norwegian Solar Metaverse, the Garden of Eden, and it is visible on a spatial platform, so we can move through the scans of this castle, and we can see the exhibition, some of the old objects, and we can see Norwegian Solar Metaverse oil paintings from this exhibition.
Hello and welcome everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Hello.
With all of you wonderful women. Hey Marguerite. Hey, I think I saw Andrea. How are you both? We've seen each other before.
Yes. So good
Yeah,
to see you again.
nice to see you guys. Good to see you again, and happy to meet all of you, Sharon, Emily, Ruth. Very, very excited for this panel. Because for Humanity, Women Spearheading Social Change. My name is Andrea Camargo. I'm a founder, but also an environmentalist and plant-based advocate. I founded Refi Collective. We do consulting around regeneration, also social change, and are inspired by nature to provide solutions. So, very happy to be here with you all. Um, Okay, let's start by presenting ourselves and maybe telling about the projects we're working on. I know some of you girls have very interesting research going on. Let's start with Emily. Do you want to present yourself and maybe tell us about your research and your projects?
Yeah, hi, I'm Emily Wright. I am the creator of It'll Be Alright. My main interest is in the psychology of discrimination, and I have written a book about the relationship between subconscious and algorithmic bias and how that feeds to greater biases. I'm also very interested in the way in which we can reprogram our own minds. So I have a social media series called Mind Bites, and every month I present just a little tip or a little technique about how we can proactively work with our minds, with our thoughts and our emotions to reprogram ourselves to be able to better process information and to therefore be able to make more improved decisions.
Wow, that's really, really interesting. I dive into a little bit of your research, and it was mind blowing. We will talk about it later in this panel.
Thank you.
Ruth, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. So Ruth Diaz, and I have been working in metaverse related or immersive reality related projects for a few years now. I focus on helping people see through the eyes of somebody that isn't like them. So I've built a lot of different experiences that focus on empathy building and also multiple perspectives, like intersectional diversity. How do we really create that life experience so that those of us with privilege can be more mindful and then also practice releasing that privilege and redistributing it and creating true equality? So, yeah, virtual reality, lots of fun world hops and gamified experiences, but also really deep and thoughtful pieces too.
Thank you, Ruth. I read a little bit about your dot model, and I was you know I felt the relationship between technology and what we need to think about on the other side of ourselves, like going deep and having the sense of presence and not just using technology for different means, but go deep. I
Yeah.
love that.
Thank you for seeing that. That model is at the core of a lot of the work that I do in virtual reality, which is instead of thinking about conflict resolution, the dot model is about conflict resiliency and this concept that we can take micro conflicts, the small moments where we're disagreeing or feeling dissonant, and build relationship back. And I believe immersive technology is an incredible medium to do that and take risks and experiment with new ways to be in relationship.
That's amazing. Congratulations, Ruth, and welcome. Sharon, I saw your impressive background as well. You, sorry, you are a professor and have a doctorate degree. You want to talk a little bit about your experience and the awesome things you have done in finance and development.
Yeah. So I'm coming to you. First of all, greetings and thanks for having me here. It's wonderful to be part of this illustrious group of amazing women. I'm coming to you live from Cape Town, South Africa. I do teach finance at the University of Cape Town at the Graduate School of Business. And for the past 25 years, I have been involved in innovating around how we invest differently in women, particularly women in climate tech. I am a woman in climate tech myself. I'm a serial social impact entrepreneur and investor. And so when I teach project finance, I often teach about how to create a more sustainable and inclusive built environment. And that really led me into exploring how to use advancing technologies, primarily AI, Earth observation technologies, imaging, other kinds of technologies that are driving next generation predictive analytics so that we can really understand concepts like resilience, which is inherently complex. But by the time we're done, everyone's going to have an R score, a resilience score. But more importantly, how do we use AI, predictive analytics, to help businesses and governments to better partner so that they can close the value action gap and shift capital at scale into investing in marginalized communities? I'm all about climate justice. I'm all about investing differently in women in particular, in areas that are prone to adverse climate conditions, because we really do hold up half the sky. So I'm going to stop it there. I could go on, but I'm sure we have more time to talk later. So thanks. And I pronounced my name Sharon, and you wouldn't have known that.
All right, sorry about that. Happy
You know,
to have you, Sharon, and learn from you. Here in Colombia, we have some issues, relating to education and women, and this dissonance between what the government is doing and where the finances are going. So it would be very, very interesting to have this conversation with you. So thank you for being here. Andrea, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Wow, it's an honor to be here with all of you guys. It's really beautiful. I feel that there's a lot of intersections and lines that can be with what you're doing and what I'm trying to do with Noah also, what we're trying to do with Noah. So Noah is a community that connects creators, change agents, and indigenous communities to foster financial autonomy and cultural identity, like preserve cultural identity in rural cooperatives through the intersection of technology, art, and culture. So the way that it works basically has two parts. The first part is the community itself, the physical meetups that have to do with events that are events for inspiration, connection, and co-creation with very diverse people that are in the like spearheading technological innovation locally, people that are doing things with finance and legal issues, people that are having some type of change or some type of creation there, and indigenous communities, and having a platform for everyone to speak and to kind of show what's happening in each of their areas. And in a way, what that brings is two things. It's the target audience kind of data, like that is always moving, and that is where one of the kind of possibilities for the future integration of AI would be interesting. And the other one is the decision-making process, so that it can go to like a governance system in a future DAO. Because everything we're working with indigenous communities, so there's a really big gap with the technology, and that's why I think it needs to be done in a slow way and humans first kind of thing. And while doing that, the second part, which is the financial autonomy part, is what's trying to kind of work as an incubator of a collaboration between these diverse groups of people to create a project for the rural cooperative that gets funded and backed by Nolo and the knowledge that's kind of in the macro of what Nolo is. And in that aspect, then there's also, tracking processes and logistical operational processes for the first project that's going to be done and things like that. And that can kind of go into helping the new projects that come afterwards. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I find your project very, very inspiring, especially for the indigenous communities and also people that are connected with them. And I know you have some almost 10 years of architectural experience. So mixing those two worlds together, I find it very awesome. And I think what you're doing with decentralizing finance and voting and governance in these communities is amazing. So congratulations, welcome. And Margarita, please tell us.
Hello. Yes, it's so great to be in this group of inspiring female entrepreneurs. And yes, my name is Margarita Margreen. Greetings from Kenya. I am here on a very exciting project right now. I have been creating content for the last 15 years of my life about different things. And about 5 years ago, I started creating content about sustainability and climate action and climate solutions, and really using social media to empower and inspire change. And I gained a lot of expertise within like social media industry in terms of like retention and like driving attention to topics of conservation, environment, climate change, and like really learning how to use the tools and the skills that social media is giving us to kind of like keep people glued to the important topics and conversations. And so yeah, I also founded environmental media company. So we have like a creator community of people that are telling nature stories in a very exciting way. And we're filming and documenting different projects. So currently in Kenya, yes, we are telling different kinds of stories, actually, from sustainable festivals to mangrove reforestation and focusing on like empowering local communities. And yeah, this is like this little term that I trying to popularize, greenfluencing. So it's using social media to, yeah, educate about nature and environment in all different ways, and especially for people that have knowledge and education with PhDs. This is my biggest passion, to push people that actually have the knowledge and solutions on social media to be talking about these things. So obviously with the rise of AI, and I'm closely connected to Meta and like Instagram, TikTok, all of these things, like I started learning about all of these tools since last year, and I've been honestly on the roller coaster. I'm very scared of it, and also the video that you have played before the gathering started, like really started like very interesting questions about like what is this boundary between, you know, being a real human and being a robot or being this avatar. I also created an avatar for myself where you can type in the text, and this version of Mark Green is going to educate about environment. And when I was creating that, that was like a very interesting process. I am like giving my image, my picture, and I think that this is for the greater cause of inspiring more people and telling more positive environmental stories and solutions. But where is the boundary? But back to
Mhm.
you.
Thank you so much. I do agree with this, the use of technology that has these ways, you know, we can use it for inspiring people and empowering communities, but there's also the other way of, you know, creating chaos and just using it for the wrong cause. Hopefully we can guide the development of technologies towards the first one. And I'm sure if we connect like we are connecting now, there is a greater chance to do so. Just going back with some of my personal experiences, I worked with a media startup in Hollywood, and I've never thought about the impact media has on the collective consciousness. And it's really, really amazing what you're doing, Margarita. So let's head on to the first question, if you guys want. Let me go. Okay. Um, This question, I think, would be for Sharon, Emily, and Ruth. Any of you can go first, but how are you utilizing AI or the metaverse to drive social change in your field?
Okay, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
As I said, for over 20 years, I've been operating in environments where people will shoot at you. They will drive you out of there if you are talking foolishness and you are not, making a difference. And so I've worked on the Niger Delta. I've worked in Sudan. I've worked in Kenya. I've worked in South Africa. I even work, I'm American. I work in places in the United States where people are hard hit, by natural disasters, et cetera. But they also generally, if we're talking about, I'm a resilience technology specialist, and I'm passionate about how do you leverage technology to make people more resilient, less vulnerable to adverse climate conditions. And so, quite often, those communities are communities that have been marginalized already. Just like the pandemic didn't impact everyone the same way, right? If you were poor or sick or marginalized already, then the pandemic exacerbated what was already a prior existing condition. It's the same with climate. And so those areas that are already vulnerable are becoming more vulnerable. The difference, and it is actually still related because we live on a sphere. So what goes around gets around. Some of those areas are areas when they fall, the rest of us are really impacted in an adverse way. You take, of course, places in Colombia, Brazil, other places where, these are the lungs of our planet. When those places go, we all go, right? So we're all connected. So getting back to how I use AI, resilience doesn't work without data, because otherwise it's a thumb sucking exercise. Are you more resilient or are you not? Well, I don't know. That doesn't work, right? If we're trying to shift capital at scale, and the World Bank estimates that over the next decade, we need $4 trillion to be invested into resilience. But what is it? How do we measure it? It doesn't work without data. And the kind of trillions of data points that we're talking about, you simply cannot figure it out on a spreadsheet. So one of the things that we've done is we've developed a next generation index, which has 7 subdomains and 137 domains and 137 subdomains, so that we can begin to measure things, for example, like gender inequity, the number of female-headed households in the community, those kinds of things. Those things that are very strategic for the conversations that we're having here today. How do those things relate to a group of people being more vulnerable to climate? Today, very often we're guessing. And so part of what we're doing is we have done the heavy lifting to develop the index. And now what we're doing is starting to partner with big insurance companies and banks as a start to really begin to measure how these factors, some of those factors that I've mentioned, relate to climate, so that we can develop better products, better services, better interventions, so that we can help people to become stronger before the disaster happens, and not just cleaning up after the disaster. So that's what we're about. Thanks.
Amazing. Yeah, I definitely agree with this measurement thing. And I think it's also related with this scientific flow we've got in the past few decades. If you don't measure it, you don't know if you're improving or if you're going the wrong way. And I'm working a lot with regenerative agriculture, and we have this same challenge in how do we measure if the soil is healthier or not. How do we measure the carbon inside the soil? And at least here in Colombia, these are questions that almost no one is asking. And these are really, really important questions, and we need to know how to measure it. So I'm definitely gonna check this next generation index for the research I'm gonna do with the team these next years. So thank you, Sharon. Emily, you want to go next for this question?
Yeah, no, I'm Sharon. That was really interesting. I'm definitely gonna check that out too. That sounds really important. For me and what I do, I'm more focused on individual healing to generate collective shifts. And I think with climate change, it's one of those obviously global issues that we all need to contribute to on some level. You know, like there are obviously governments and companies and things that contribute in greater ways than we do as individuals, but we as the individuals do have the power to influence that. But we live in a culture that has trained us to believe we don't have a voice, and if we don't think we have a voice, we won't think to use it, and we won't think that we have that power. So with what I do, I try and simplify things as much as possible and just think about like the everyday. So with my Mind Bite series, it's simple techniques that we can all incorporate just internally with our minds. And I feel that if we are going to be able to get into a position where we as individuals are willing to contribute to change, we have to first recognize that we have the power to do so, but we need to learn how to value our own decisions. And in order for us to value our decisions, we need to be able to make effective decisions and have faith in our decisions and our choices. And we can't do that if we're overloaded by overthinking and by our emotionability. And I feel like historically in our education system, we don't necessarily learn about emotional intelligence, and we don't necessarily learn about how to effectively process our thoughts. We don't really think of our thoughts as tangible things, and we don't really address them as such. You know, if we don't have language, if we don't have words, do we have thoughts? You know, like before thought, there was feeling. And if we want to be able to contribute to the collective changes that we need, then we need to be able to effectively process how we feel. And our thoughts are an important part of that. So for me, I feel like I'm on a very simplistic level of what I'm trying to contribute to, and this I'm just trying to present ways in which we can feel comfortable in our own minds. I think for a lot of people with depression, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, we can be afraid of our minds, especially when it comes to overthinking and we feel like we're out of control of our mind. We may feel like we're out of control of the world too. You know, it all expands outwards, it manifests, right? So that's kind of where I'm starting. I want people to be okay with not being okay, and then present little tips of how we can learn to feel okay with that. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Nice, really interesting thoughts. And also, I have felt this way, right? Especially with social media algorithms that just present to you just images of things you don't really want to see, or make you feel bad, or sometimes even depressed. And all these algorithms are ingrained into the how the core of the system works, and how those systems want to show you some things, let's say. And it's I take this idea back to you, Emily, because I know you did some research on subconscious bias on algorithms, and I saw the 100 Days of Color project. I thought it was amazing to do this research and to find that even if you kind of show the algorithm what you want to see, it always has this bias, and it brings you back to what it wants it to show you. So how do you think this will develop in the next years with the use of AI in social media, let's say, or in music?
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. That I wasn't expecting you to mention that. I'll just give a quick brief to everyone. The 100 Days of Color was a study I did looking at the relationship between subconscious bias and algorithmic bias. And I monitored the way Spotify was recommending music to me based on race and color. And I found patterns, and I was able to sort of backtrack that information and correctly identify the racial demographic of the programmers in Spotify. And this really showed me that no matter how much we interact with our algorithms so that they can learn for us to cater to our needs, there's still that underlying bias which is provided in the initial programming. So how do we combat that? I kind of thought about this earlier, and there was something that I think Jamie mentioned in the previous panel, and it was talking about why. And for me, I think this is the most important question that we need to answer moving forwards. And we need to establish why we create. Why do we do what we do? Why do we make the decisions that we do? And then that's the question that we give to our AI and to these algorithms. And then it's going to take that and expand it exponentially. Right now, the why is survival. The why is money. It's numbers on a screen, which is really how I see money. I know money doesn't hold a lot of value to me because it's just a bunch of numbers on a screen. And so like in the end, like if you give the AI and the future of our technology that as the foundation, the why of what we do is to expand this number exponentially, then we're going to suffer for that. But if we can make the why pleasure, if we can make the why fulfillment, if we can make the why ensuring that everyone has the opportunity and the resources to fulfill the potential, the AI can take that and expand it exponentially, which is amazing. But I think it's hard for us to commit to that because there are so many people that still have a negative view of humanity's potential. And I think whether or not you're willing to invest in humanity is dependent on whether or not you're willing to see the potential of humanity. And if you look at all of the scary things that are happening in the world and have happened in the past, you're going to see that as humanity's potential. But then there's also so much beauty to us and so much kindness and compassion. And if we focus on that and expand that, then we can create a more beautiful world. So yeah, I think setting the intention and the purpose and the why is the most important thing that we can do right now.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Emily. And for closing this question, Ruth, you want to share your comments and how AI and the metaverse, because you're so, you have been working with XR for the past years. So how does that relate to you and your experience?
Yeah, so I definitely want to recognize that virtual reality and immersive technology is a privilege, and it is not available to everyone on this planet. It's available to very few in actuality. And my focus is on understanding it almost like a microcosm of how to redistribute that privilege. For example, I've been doing a preliminary interview process with trolls in virtual reality for the last 6 months, where I've actually been going into the environments where they are doing their trolling and asking them a series of questions about their framework of where they have boundaries or they don't have boundaries in that intentional irritation that they are causing. And when does that turn to bullying? And what is, quote, allowed in trolling and not allowed in trolling? And understanding that culture of very privileged people who have the obvious time to actually target people and try to create discord has been really eye-opening for me in understanding cancel culture patterns all the way up. And so simultaneously, sometimes on the same day, I'll be doing a scheduled interview with a troll. I've gotten to the point where they're actually reaching out to me to schedule those interviews. And then I'm also doing cancel culture coaching with people in very high leadership positions who have been struggling with how to address concerns that have been brought out and called out in the community, and also like be a part of transformational justice and join the cause that is more than corrective or restorative, but also looking at how did the system lead to such a vicious cancel culture cycle. And even though it's not the same series of questions for both parties, there's some really common answers I'm finding, and I'm appreciating how that immersive technology is allowing people that might do these kinds of behaviors in secret or more insidious or subterfuge are much more willing to talk very openly about what they understand in their behavior and how they see it going long term.
Ruth, I feel like you could write a book about that called Interview with a Troll. Like, I feel like that would be really interesting.
Yeah, we've been hypothesizing different titles. I think the latest one is The Art of Trolling, which is from a quote of a troll. And recognizing that there are a few people out there that are doing this and actually do have some sense of ethics or morals to it and are specifically targeting trolls. So they're trolling the trolls as kind of their like community service of sorts. From a psychologist end of things, I could definitely argue with those ideas, but also understanding that it's a type of protectiveness and it is also a type of amends of sorts, because before you learn how to troll trolls, you just troll. So yeah, it's a fascinating process. And I think the best part for me is that as opposed to going to a school system where there's bullies or going to a prison, in virtual reality, you have very vivid imagery that includes asking these people to take me to their favorite immersive environment where they troll and asking them, why is this environment so stimulating for you? And then even asking them to change their avatars to embody that villain or that irritant and show me their kind of slide deck of options and tools without hopefully crashing my own technology. But mostly they've been very respectful, and it's like they take a coffee break from that harmful behavior and genuinely answer their questions and then go right back to it. And so I've learned a lot about my own self and where I get very activated and want to judge and condemn. And hopefully, as we start to release some of these clips and videos, it will be useful for other people to kind of see the humanity behind and think about different solutions. I think tying back to Sherwoon, I believe that there's a cycle where we throw things away, including people, and we participate in this environmental crisis by just like putting it out of our minds. And so this is my activism and social change is about recognizing if we throw these people away, there's just going to be more and more people to throw away. How do we actually like offer a reconciliation loop for these people and education cycles and invest in not just influencers, but community leaders who are actually taking that power and redistributing it back into their community instead of just being like, I am the chosen one, which is more the influencer culture in general. So yeah, there's a lot there.
Wow, amazing. While you were talking, I was imagining this kind of system that has feedback loops and reinforcing loops. And sometimes we want to kind of stop a behavior, but if we don't think about these loops, it might be harder to lead the direction to another way. So very, very interesting how you see it, and I completely agree. Awesome. Let's go to our next question for Margarita and Andrea. What challenges have you faced in leveraging technology for social good, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, definitely a lot of challenges with technology and social media, and just hearing your thoughts, Emily and Ruth, it's just, yeah, resonates so well. I spend so much time on social media, just engaging with content, like different types, positive and negative. And I experience very high levels of anxiety and have like super achiever tendencies, and yeah, just like really want to help. And what's happening around is not always that wonderful and positive, and just like a very fast-paced reality, and traveling and different events and interactions with people and different causes that I want to engage with and participate. Like that all creates a lot of like personal challenge. And yeah, definitely eco anxiety. I was at COP. When was that? Like almost a month ago. It was 12 days. Everyone was engaging in amazing discussions about what I believe positive future of our planet. But it's so fast paced, and everyone is talking about moving forward with all of these technologies, but do we have time and space to process how it's actually affecting the environment, how it's affecting people, and even like with things like renewable energy and solar panels, like do we really have enough time to assess how it's affecting the land where we put these technologies in, and just our bodies, like how just like so much screen time, how does it affect me, and like from which COP am I then sharing this content that I want to believe that is beneficial for the world. So it's really, yeah, just like finding this balance and being here in Kenya, in Africa, and I am back to being nomadic now, living this nomadic lifestyle. I was living in Portugal before, where I was very focused and productive with all of my gadgets and technologies around me, so I can do multiple things and all of these things. And now here is completely different environment, and really invites me to slow down, and to my laptop broke, for example. Like even like small things like that, like incredibly affect productivity level, and what I can do, what I can produce, how I can help. So from that standpoint is really just like, yeah, coming back to the root, the basic is taking care of our own well-being and mental health, and like dealing with personal anxiety, then eco anxiety, and then from that place then we can serve and actually spread that inspiration and awareness that I really want to spread.
Awesome. Really, really awesome that you went to COP28 and share these insights with us. Because even I also sometimes feel this anxiety about climate change, and
Mhm.
I do the best I can do in my daily life. And I have changed many things that add up or sum up. For example, the diet, and the transportation, and uh, the products I use, the clothes. But sometimes it's so great to connect with people like you, who inspire from the positive side, and not just judge on all the things that we are doing wrong. There is actually a bright future, and if we can imagine it, we can create it. So
Absolutely, I agree. But using technology is definitely like, it's so great, so wonderful. It makes my life so much easier, using AI like for creative tools, breaking things down, being more organized. But then when I go too much into this world, into this like technological AI unreal, yeah, we need to go back to nature. Just nature is the core of everything. The more time we spend in nature, the more we look at it, the more we can do good things in the world and be productive, and all these systems and strategies.
definitely, I agree. Andrea, please share your thoughts.
Going back to that, actually, I wanted to start on the why that Emily was speaking about, because I think that most of the time when people work with marginalized communities, it's seen in an assistentialism approach, where it's very much like, I am helping you. That already kind of creates these hierarchies just inherently, and I think that the mindset shift needs to be that the way that things were done in indigenous communities, like ancestral knowledge, it really is technology. It's not only anthropology, sociology. It really is a completely different way our neural system works. It's many connections done at once and an integral framework. So that has a direct relation with the way that we're programming technology now. And so I wanted to speak about many different things there, because like the first one is speed, right? The technology is exponential, and it can, you know, create effects in fast ways and stuff like that. But I think we need to go back to the human element, which is what, you know, Emily and Ruth were also speaking about, because that's why that first part of NOLO is so important. That's why that's the focus this year, which is like, just let's get together and let's start talking about what it is that's really moving you, not only in a separate scheme of like, this is the indigenous community that we go to the middle of the mountain to talk to, but we are bringing all the ideas together. Like, one of the beautiful things that happened when we started kind of launching these events we work with two communities in Peru. One that is the Shipibo Conmigo community in Cantagallo. I'm from Peru. And the second one that is the Queros community, that's like 5,500 meters high in the mountains of Peru. So that's like 16,400 feet for reference. And there's very different, you know, cultures, very different mindsets, but a lot of things that also unite people. And it's bringing the people from these communities together with the people that are working in like technology, innovation, AI, blockchain in the local spaces. The people that are, for example, in Cusco, when we did the event, we had like academic, like deans for universities in the city. And we had people that are creators and artists and community organizers, and the tech people. And so, for example, in this situation, like they came and they only spoke, most of the people that came, of the women that came from this town, they speak only Quechua. So we were speaking about blockchain in AI in Quechua terms, but not only in Quechua as a language, but also like in terms that could be understood as for why is it important in the community for you to maybe take into advantage this technology, right? And if you want to, and why would you want to? And what would you need to know, and why would you, what would you want to empower yourself in? Like, what do you want to do, you know, and things like that. That data needs to be collected before anything else. And there needs to be a sense of community, because the thing is that most of the communities that have been marginalized, at least in Peru, and I know that this happens in Latin America in general, there's a lot of discrimination with, you know, indigeneity and things like that. And so when people come into a new space with new, different, diverse people, there's a kind of like a wall, an internal wall that needs to be torn down. And I think I go back to what Emily is saying, because it's so important that we all see each other as leaders, and that we all see each other as creators, because we're not going to be able to really do like systematic change if we don't see each other as that. So it's different to work with a community, go there and be like, hey, this is the technology and this is what I'm giving to you and this is how you use it, which is what I've seen up until now. Like, okay, use this phone, and like there's ways to translate, you know, a community that doesn't have maybe a lot of internet, or just like maybe the maximum that of technology is like a Nokia phone or something, and like there's no signal in the places that they live. Like there's all these factors to think about, right? It's different to go in and be like, this is the solution for you. Let me, you know, use it according to what I've already planned, versus, and I think that this is a systematic change. Just first of all, having a sense of community that's a broader community, that's not only the rural community, but the whole community of the people that think and believe that this knowledge needs to be in the forefront of innovation. And have a platform for each of them to speak, just as like the same amount for people that are in the indigenous communities with the people that are talking about tech, and have these moments of like co-creation and questions and all these things. And I think that this is really kind of the plasma behind whatever needs to be created, because whatever happens in the second part, which is the like financial autonomy part, that has to do more with like building a business model and getting funding for it, and actually like getting through like training processes so that the internal team of that community itself has the skill sets within themselves, so that there's real autonomy in the long term, which is a long-term thing. Whatever that project is, whatever the idea is, can always be put back in the soundboard of the plasma of the NOLO community at large. That's not only in Cusco or in Lima or in Miami, but wherever it has to be at some point, no? But it has to start like that. It has to go slow, and it has to start with a human element, and it has to start with really why people care. And so the second kind of big clue in that is who is behind the programming of the technology, right? Who is behind the AI? Like, who is behind how the blockchain is programmed? Because it's great because that these technologies exist, but really, who is programming it? And therefore, what is that bias, which is what Emily was saying, that is influencing a whole group of people in very like undercover ways that they don't notice, right? And so how can we put that in the people's hands, right? So we are partnering up with tech training communities that are local in Peru and also in the US for whatever needs to be learned, like AI courses, cybersecurity, or blockchain, or just how to create your webpage. Like, we have to go back to like the basics, right? And so doing all these things, but at the same time, while they give the courses, the people from the indigenous communities also give courses on how they see agriculture and how they see, how they've been working with textiles and how the technique works and how this has been transferred, intergenerationally. Because at the end, these are systems. That's the thing. Like, most indigenous communities come from like a knowledge that comes intergenerationally, that has been passed on orally. And most of this knowledge is abstract. It's very systematic. It's geometry. It's a way to, like, if you understand how agriculture works, you can understand processes of life and death, and you can understand processes of beginning and end of projects, or how to program, structure, or things like that. But those things are only going to be thought of by the people that are studying that thing. So that's why we need to join together the indigenous community with the tech innovator, with the architect, or whatever, because that's the only way these ideas start to come out. And then people start to see that this is not a knowledge that has been passed on by the grandfather, and the grandfather has been discriminated, that I want to cut off and go and earn money from whatever other thing and cut off my identity, versus this is my identity, this is important, and it's not only anthropology, but it's really something that can lay the grid line for whatever needs to be done in innovation and in technology, and how we're using it and putting it in our hands, right?
Yes, definitely. I love this part where you talk about co-creating with different types of knowledge, because as you say, sometimes this hierarchy we have in our minds, that we are going to save you and you need my help and my technology, it's not always right. It doesn't always fit in what communities want and what communities need. So it's really, really awesome that you are gathering all this knowledge and distributing the power in a decentralized way. If we can, I'm gonna do one last question, and maybe we can speed up, maybe 1 minute answer each. All right. Okay, this is the question. Can you briefly discuss the potential of AI and the metaverse in shaping future societal structures? Sharon, you want to go first?
Yeah. I think that the potential for AI in shaping future societal structures is tremendous. I mean, we know, that's kind of a softball, because we know that AI is already influencing every industrial sector on Earth, right? But what I'd love to just give as my final parting shot is that I think that AI has enormous potential in terms of how we close what I call the value action gap. In order for us to really begin to solve for climate, governments alone can't do it. Groups of individuals alone can't do it. We actually need the private sector. We need businesses on board. We need their resources, financial resources, and other kinds of resources, including the human capital. We need academia on board. There has to be this coming together of civil society, the private sector, government, et cetera. And I think one of the things that AI has a potential to do is to help to close that value action gap, which is keeping businesses in particular. They know that climate is impacting their operations. Many times they value action, but they don't take the action. why don't they take the action? That's another discussion that we'll have for another time. But I think AI can be used to really help to define action, to inform decision making, and more importantly, speed up the time that is required in order to take action that can make all the difference in terms of saving lives and livelihoods. Thanks.
Amazing. Really, really interesting. This value action gap. I've never heard of this before, and I mean, definitely AI can speed up this process in different countries and bioregions, but definitely very interesting. Emily?
So, this isn't the first time that a question has been asked in one of these panels, and the first thing that came to my mind was Star Trek. I'm just like remembering the scenes where they're like programming the holodeck and they're standing in that room and they give the computer commands and they're like, make this person taller or change the color of his hair or whatever. And then it just kind of happens. And I'm thinking like, what would that show be like if we had to manually program that? Like if all of those characters had to manually enter the coding to make all of those changes, like we wouldn't watch the show. It would be so boring, you know, like it would take so long. And I feel like that is kind of, you know, where we're going, and it's going to provide us with so many opportunities to do so much. And I think it's important that we learn to value our time more. I think that generally, like we don't necessarily value our time. Like there's so many people that hold the key to the next great technology, but they're spending 40 hours a week flipping burger patties just trying to get by. And you know, and I think that humanity is the greatest resource we have, and I think AI has the potential to tap into that and to cultivate that. But again, we've got to establish the why. Why do we want to cultivate this potential? I think that's where we've got to start. Yeah.
Definitely. The why is kind of the center of it all. And also the self in terms of the regenerative concept or design. We look at bioregions, we look at technology, we look at governance, but it's always the self and the why, what is in the center, and that brings all that to life. So really beautiful, Emily. Thank you. Ruth?
Yeah, I would say that AI is a complementary piece to immersive technologies and can hopefully help us dig our way out of the current dream. I think of metaverse or immersive as a collective dream state that we get to share our dreams and our nightmares and our visions with each other. And by default, so far, the predominant myth or dream for humans with immersive technology who are in positions of power within technology is the movie and book Ready Player One, which is a very dystopian view, white male-centering view of where we're going with our technology. And I believe that we get to use both AI and immersive technology to rewire that dream and actually create an inclusive vision together of how we can belong with equity with our planet also. So that starts with doing that arm wrestling and engagement wherever we are, creating safe spaces to have uncomfortable conversations, and also getting playful with that. And I think that immersive tech, especially social VR, demonstrates that playfulness. It is astounding to me, the hours and intentionality that goes into some of the avatars within social VR to just cause irritation. It's stunning to me that people spend that amount of time really constructing and building something that is revolting, but also like very colorful. So I think that, you know, that's creative energy used destructively. How do we rewire that to find and build bridges for all the levels and not end up in this Ready Player One future where everyone's kind of given up? And so I think AI is going to help us with that, first by showing us our unconscious bias, which we've been hearing about and I've been looking into also. I think it's a great window to be like, hey, racism is still real. Supremacy thinking is a big deal. It's still very systematized. And how do we rewire? Yeah.
Yeah, that brings me to the idea of the possibility of the combination of blockchain and AI, and how these blockchain technologies can start to decentralize knowledge and algorithms in a more sustainable way. I think we're gonna see that in the future more often, and there's a great potential there as well. But yeah, really, really interesting, Ruth. Thank you. Margarita?
Yes, absolutely. I agree that there is a huge potential with AI. What Sharon was saying regarding data, definitely need to find a way to just study more, study our impact, and immersive tech, immersive experiences. I'm very excited about that because it's engaging content, definitely helps us to level up with education and just like help people to think about outside of the box about all of these solutions that are already available to us, and like engage about climate solutions and just climate conversations on a completely different level, and use creativity and imagination to like really pour our energy in there. But I'm scared. I'm scared of it. And for experts, yes, definitely. Let's go. Data, break it down, make it better, faster. But for everyone else, going so fast without like really seeing how it does affect the brain, and like, are we ready for this yet? Maybe definitely slow down.
Yeah, it's like um, the brain that works in the fast pathway and the slow pathway, and we need both to really have a deep conversation with ourselves, with others, but also to take fast decisions in terms of survival and all these things. And something I imagined while you were talking, Margarita, is what will happen if we start teaching small children to experience reality in not in a human way, but for example, as a tree, or as a microorganism in the soil, or as the mycelium that connects us all.
I
Having
love that idea.
different perspectives that could only be possible with the metaverse, and
Yes.
can really open our minds to what's possible, and not just having our human experience to have this perspective of reality.
That's a great idea. But first, they have to experience it as children. World.
Yes. Andrea, please finish
Yeah,
up.
I think that we need to stop thinking of adapting ourselves to technology and adapt technology to humanity and to whatever that means in different areas and in different cultures, right? And the second thing, what you were talking about, it's already happening. I was just in a concert of plants like 3 days ago, where they used this like closed loop of electricity in different plants, and they did these frequencies, and they've done that in the Amazon rainforest and created like visuals through AI. And there's this company that is doing that, that I was just looking at like 2 days ago, and I think that that's beautiful because it starts showing how similar we are to nature. And that's one of the main issues, right? That we think that we're like humans and nature, but like we are nature, and we need to start seeing ourselves as part of that bigger kind of system. And speaking about that, I think most of the societal structures are thought of up until now as organizations, and they're static organizations. And I think we need to go into the idea of organisms, and organisms that are always in movement, just how nature works. Nothing is static in nature. And so how can we use technology to go back to that and to start analyzing things in that way? And I think that the key for that is in the intersection within DAOs and blockchain and AI. And how do we bring together like diverse communities and opinions and start grabbing that data, and AI starts regurgitating like whatever, governance processes and things like that through the DAO that starts creating more of an organism type of structure that's not an organization. So that's kind of what we're trying to do more in the long term with Noel, because at the end it's little steps, you know, pasito a pasito, like little steps and just kind of grabbing what the insight is in each little step, because if not, we don't take into account humanity.
Wow, I love that idea of transforming organizations from organizations to organisms that adapt to their environment and are ever evolving, you know. Really, really beautiful. And thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I loved it. I enjoyed it, every second of it. I learned so much from you all. I hope we can meet after this panel and really dive deep into all these new ideas that came up in this event. Really, really thankful, Chris and all the GatherVerse team for making this possible. This is amazing, and so happy to have you all here. So have a beautiful day, and let's keep watching these
Thank you
panels.
so much, everyone.
Thank
That
you
was
so much. It was so nice to talk to you. See you all
Take
again.
care. Keep doing amazing work.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.